Your sister, hey, look.
My sister was smacking y'all ass.
Your sister got did so dirty. Y'all living off the name that they fake created in the street. That bitch wasn't no assassin. That bitch got smoked.
Oh, she was smacking shit. Ask blood money.
How many times she got hit?
Ask blood money. Ask OD.
How many times she got hit?
Ask Sherrod. Ask Batur. Ask Junior.
Your ass a fucking goofy,
I keep naming, folks.
Gakirah K.I. Barnes was born on the notoriously rough south side of Chicago on January 21, 1996. In 1997, before she turned 1, her father was murdered. Just a few years later, while still in elementary, she witnessed her brother's murder. But despite the tragedy that surrounded her, she started out as a stellar student. She was accepted into the charter school Perspectives IIT, a math and science academy, and did very well there. Her teachers described her as shy at first, but once she opened up, she was very pleasant. Her teachers said K.I. liked helping people, and her original plan was to become a social worker. After graduating her 8th grade year, K.I. and her mom moved to the Woodlawn neighborhood, which was run by the Gangster Disciples. Although her mother tried to keep K.I. out of the streets, she still fell into the gang life that surrounded her. At the time, K.I. was only 14 years old and barely 5 feet tall and a girl. But K.I. started to show everyone that she could hold her own. She joined the St. Lawrence Street Gang, also known as STL, and started out fighting with the girls from the other hoods. Some fights she won, and some fights she lost, but her recognition and reputation around the city grew. By her freshman year, K.I. was hanging with the top members of her gang, even becoming one herself. One of her closest friends, and fellow gang members, Shondell Gregory, aka Tyquan, was shot and killed while waiting for a bus on January 12, 2011. Tyquan was only 15 years old at the time. STL renamed their neighborhood Tyquanville in his honor. Although the murder went unsolved, the streets knew who was responsible. At that time, STL's biggest rivals were the Black Disciple sets, DeWick, TYMB, 600, and Lamron. With a major figure of the gang gone, K.I. stepped in to fill his shoes. She began to ride around and shoot at her ops constantly in Tyquan's name. Allegedly, on Tyquan's birthday, August 11th of the same year, K.I. was out riding with fellow gang members, looking for her enemies, when they saw a high-ranking member of the DeWick leaving a corner store on his bike. It was 20-year-old Odie Perry. K.I. is rumored to have jumped out of the car and shot Odie off his bike. She then stole his favorite revolver from his dying body. Odie was pronounced dead at the hospital. The streets couldn't believe that a little girl was the one who murdered Odie. So, K.I. went on Twitter and posted a photo of herself holding Odie's revolver. In honor of Odie, the DeWick changed their name to the now famous O Block. Odie's murder went unsolved, officially, but according to police documents, the investigators suspected K.I. and STL boss Trell of the hit. That murder made K.I. even more respected in the streets, but it also made her a high priority for her enemies. Not long after Odie's murder, the Black Disciples started to go mainstream with their style of rap called drill. Artists like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and Lil Reese gained a massive following across the country. Drill rap focuses a lot on disrespecting their dead rivals. And K.I. and her gang were the rivals. Songs mocking the deaths of her friends with lyrics like Smoking Tyquan were being played on radio stations everywhere, with millions of fans rapping along with the disrespectful lyrics. In response, members of STL including FBG Duck and STL Wooski began to make diss songs of their own, featuring K.I. in their videos. But STL's music was not as popular at the time, and almost never made it to the radio. But K.I. was never one to shrink down from someone bigger than her. She began to use social media heavily, especially Twitter, to fire back at her foes. Between December of 2011 and April of 2014, K.I. tweeted almost 27,000 times, and most were directed at her ops, including a now infamous, semi-playful, back and forth with King Von from O Block. In 2012, K.I.'s favorite cousin, 13-year-old Tyquan Tyler, came to visit her for the summer. On June 24th, just 2 weeks after arriving, Tyquan went with K.I. to a house party on the 6200 block of South Rhodes Avenue, in the West Woodlawn neighborhood. Between 1 and 1:30 a.m., a fight broke out and the party dispersed. While standing in an alley outside the party, a car pulled up and shot Tyquan twice in his chest. Tyquan tried to run away but collapsed on the sidewalk where he died. Police said that Tyquan was just an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. 25-year-old Nashawn Flowers, who goes by Nate, was eventually convicted of Tyquan's murder and sentenced to 55 years in prison. K.I. was devastated by yet another tragedy. The next day K.I. changed her Twitter name to Tyquan Assassin and tweeted about how hurt she was, but also, that she was out for revenge. Jerome J. Money Wood was a beloved O Block and OTF member. He was very close to rappers Lil Durk and King Von. On September 2, 2012, after allegedly being set up by a girlfriend, J Money walked into an apartment to find K.I. and FBG Butta waiting on him with guns. J Money tried to run, but they tracked him down and shot him multiple times in the head and chest. He was pronounced dead at the scene. After the murder, K.I. wasted no time going on Twitter to mock J Money's death. A few days later, King Von and other O Block members allegedly saw K.I. on the train and jumped her pretty bad. In revenge, K.I. shot at King Von and other O Block members while they stood outside their apartment complex, Parkway Gardens. King Von was hit in the leg, but everyone else escaped. Around October 15, K.I. was arrested for firing a handgun into a crowd. According to her, associates of O Block snitched on her. She was released a few weeks later. From 2013 to 2014, the gang violence and taunting continued, especially between O Block and STL. This included the murder of Boss Trell, another of K.I.'s closest friends. During this time, there are rumors of K.I. herself having murdered, or assisted in the murder, of up to 21 people in Chicago. Yet, K.I. was never charged with homicide. On March 28, 2014, K.I.'s close friend Raisin, Lil B. Shaw was outside in the Woodlawn neighborhood when police said they witnessed him selling drugs. When they started to approach him, he fled on foot, beginning a chase. Officers said, while he was fleeing, Lil B turned around and pointed a gun at them, so they fired. The 19-year-old was struck multiple times and was pronounced dead at the scene. K.I.'s mother said it was after Lil B's death that she saw a change in her daughter. K.I. was crushed once again by a death of a close friend. To express her hurt, she changed her Twitter name to No Surrender Lil B. She again swore revenge for yet another deceased friend. In days following Lil B's killing, K.I. tweeted a lot about death. On April 11, 2014, STL was allegedly hosting a party in honor of their fallen member Boss Trell, and K.I. was reportedly excited to go. She tweeted out her location, like she often did, as a signal to STL that she was on the way. Unfortunately, that day, her ops also saw her tweet and quickly headed her way. Allegedly, at around 3:30 p.m., King Von and Big A, both from O Block, pulled up to the 6400 block of South Eberhard Avenue, where they spotted K.I. standing outside the house of a friend. Big A stopped the car, while King Von jumped out and started firing. K.I. tried to run but couldn't get away. She was shot at least 9 times in her head and neck area. As the shooters got away in a dark-colored sedan, K.I. tried to crawl up the steps of her friend's house but collapsed. She was rushed to the Northwestern Memorial Hospital, but Gakirah K.I. Barnes was pronounced dead at 5:43 p.m. at the age of 17. According to police documents, King Von was always the main suspect in the murder, but they never had enough evidence to charge him. The St. Lawrence Street Gang and their affiliates were furious. They shot at their ops neighborhood for the next few days following K.I.'s murder. After her death, K.I. became a Chicago street legend. Her alleged murderer's Big A was killed in Chicago in December of 2016, while King Von was killed in Atlanta in November of 2020. Rest in peace to all involved.